So to start off, can you please just start by describing what your new show Big Nate is all about?
Yeah, so Big Nate is a cartoon about this wonderful young man named Nate and his family and his friends and his experience in school. And I play his older sister Ellen. And they have this very funny sort of like brother sister cat and mouse, like Tom and Jerry relationship where they're both just trying to obviously like do away with the other essentially. And it's a really wonderful show, sort of like reminiscent of I always describe it as like a love letter to the kind of older sort of classic children's cartoons, but with this like gorgeous new blend of 2D and CGI and realism. And so yeah, so it's like a sort of like an amalgamation of like older styling with like very fresh new eyes. And it's just one of the funniest projects I've ever been a part of. So I'm really excited to have it.
Nice. So can you tell us a bit about your character Ellen and what are some of your similarities or differences?
Yeah, so my character Ellen is, like I said, she's Nate's older sister, and she's sort of like the matriarch of the household. She's very maternal, very kind of controlling, very organized, very type A, very high achieving, and her and Nate are constantly trying to throw each other off their game and kind of like mess with each other and get in each other's heads and pulling these like unbelievable hijinks and pranks on each other. So they're sort of like mortal enemies that like also obviously love each other so much, just like any other sibling dynamic.
So you do have an older sister. So is this something that you can relate to?
Yeah, except in my sibling dynamic, I was Nate and she was Ellen. My sister used to do the meanest, craziest things to me that like when I was younger, I really thought they were like root of all evil. I was like, you need to go to jail. You need to sit down and be in jail. But it's like quite classic sibling stuff. But I was like, when you're the younger sibling, you don't know that you're so annoying. Like you're just like, you're just being yourself. And then your older sibling is like, I wish that you weren't here. I think my older sister definitely, when I came up, she was like very excited. And then like, as we got older, she was like, I wish I was an only child, but we're close now. We're close now, obviously. But I feel like that's like quite a normal sister relationship. But yeah, definitely I was able to draw from my older sister bullying me in the way that Ellen bullies me.
So this series deals with a lot of the reality of being in school. So what advice do you have for people who are trying to get through it, like ages 11, 12, that kind of age, and like in year 6?
That's a good question. School was my least favorite place on earth. I was not meant to be in public school. I think everybody kind of feels that way. I definitely, although I don't know, when I was in school, there were some kids where I'm like, you're having a good time, and I'm not, I'm not one of them. I think that getting through school, the thing that always kind of helped me get through school that my mom used to say to me, that like I was very like, that's true. I'm the kind of person that I need to like factually know something rather than like emotionally be told something. Like I need something that I can't argue with, like a lawyer. I'm a Capricorn. But my mom used to tell me, she was like, school has a time limit. It does end, even though it feels like it's endless, it does end. And when you leave school, everything that matters right now does not matter in the real world. And one day you're going to look back on all of this and it will only be a memory. So as much as this is like your only reference and experience right now, if you're having a hard time, just know that like school is like a fish tank, and then once you're out in the ocean, it's an entirely different experience. So if it's really really hard for you, just know that that is so normal. I personally don't know anybody who had like a really really great time in school, and that like you know you will come out on the other side and you will have a big grand life for yourself, and it won't always be school.
So what do you hope viewers take away from this series?
I think I hope that people feel more in touch with their like, I think that my favorite thing about Big Nate is it's very human and very expressive and very like it's not curated in the sense that I think like when I watch it, I'm genuinely laughing, and it makes me feel like more myself and more adventurous because it is so human. And so I hope that, people take away that they are, more in touch with sort of their inner child, their wackier side. They feel more complete, more full-fledged, more themselves. And obviously, like, the show is about real human relationships and like the importance of closeness and like self-expression. And I hope that everybody watching that really feels how important those themes in their life are as well.
That's nice. So you have done quite a bit of voice acting. Is this something that you really enjoy?
Oh yeah, I love it. It's definitely harder than, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then it's like every time it like surprises me how difficult it is. Because it really requires a lot of body effort, and it really requires a lot of like vocal taxing. It's like when you go to like an event and you're like yelling over the music, or at like like a sporting game. You can tell I never go to sports. I'm like, a sporting game with the balls and things. But when you go to like a loud event and you're yelling, you lose your voice. But imagine if you're doing that like all day for 8 hours. It like takes a toll on your vocal cords. It's definitely really difficult, but it's also really fun. It's really fun to like work a different muscle in that way and have only your voice to rely on. Sure.
So we've been a huge fan of you since Liv and Maddie. So if you could go back to the days where you found out that you were going to be in that show, what would you say to yourself?
That's a really good question. I think I could write a book about the things that I would say to myself back then. But I think mostly what I would say is, and it's the same thing as like any developing young person, not just like someone who's going to be on a show. I would say this to myself, whether I was just going to go to college, or whether I was going to start living Maddie, or whether I was, any walk of life, whatever I would have chosen to do around that time, I would have said the same thing, which is the only thing that matters is how you feel about yourself and the choices you make and the person that you are in the world. And that is still like my biggest lesson to this day. Whenever I get wrapped up in like doing the right thing, or doing it in the way that I think everybody's going to like or approve of, or like doing things for anyone besides myself, it is always the wrong answer. The person who knows best is basically always yourself. And as long as you are like loving yourself and respecting yourself in the way that you do, which is the important thing, your definition of those things, you kind of can't go wrong. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is that you are proud of yourself and what you're doing, and you're living the life that you want, because your life is only yours.
So can you fill us in a little bit about what is coming up in 2022 for you?
Yeah, so in 2022, obviously, other than Big Nate, I have a movie coming out called Good Morning with Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox and Pete Davidson. That's going to be really, really fun. It's a comedy. Hopefully, we are going to see some movement around the Powerpuff Girls series. I'll have something to report with that soon. And then I have some other things that I am just about to be able to talk about that I can't quite yet. But I will also definitely be dropping music, and that's going to be happening sooner than even I thought. So it's going to be a really fun year.
That's nice. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. You're absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for speaking to me.